today I promised you that we would look at the One Controller, the CSS OD, and we would do some questions, and then we'll look at next month's webinar as well. So first of all, the One Controller and the FFG. So the Firefighter Gateway is no longer with us, so we're changing the Firefighter Gateway and the CCG. So they're both going, or they've already gone, to be honest with you. So we don't have a Firefighter Gateway, but we have a Firefighter Feature. And I'm struggling with everybody to try and get them to say Firefighter Feature rather than Firefighter Gateway. But it's the same difference. So as you know, can't turn off the sun, turn off a normal inverter, and what happens? Well, that drops down to 0 production, but there's still 1,000 odd volts up to 1,000 volts on the roof, as you know. So should there be a problem, turning the inverter on a traditional inverter isn't going to help. But as you know, with SolarEdge, we can turn off the optimizers, turning off the panels, and therefore reducing it to a safe voltage. And the maximum we declare is 50 volts for commercial, 25 for residential. But in real terms, in real life, it's because of design rules, you're looking at 30 volts for commercial and around 25 for residential. So you're not getting a huge amount of volts. So let's look at what the solution is. So this is our new solution. This is what we call the One Controller. The One Controller is the part underneath the actual emergency stop. So this bit here is the One Controller. It's quite a clever box, because what it allows us to do is several things. It allows us to communicate with the CSS OD, the battery. It allows us to communicate to meters, now not just 1 meter, but several meters. And it also allows us to turn off the system and the battery, so the PV and the battery, should there be a fire alarm. So if the fire alarm goes off and the auxiliary contact connected to the One Controller goes off, the voltage will ramp down. And this screen here, this can be anywhere you want. You can have it near the inverters, or you can have it you can have it near the fire alarm, whatever you wish. And as you press the button, it will then go into a red screen. And basically what will happen is it will say reducing voltage, and then when it gets to below 120 volts, it will go green to safe voltage. The screen is optional. You don't have to have the screen. You can see the information on your sorry, on your SolarEdge Go app. You can see that on the SolarEdge Go app anyway. And press the button. There we go. And this is what it will basically do. The yellow blob going round, that is the that's the stay on signal every 30 milliseconds from the inverters all the way to all the optimizers. Stay on, stay on, stay on, stay on. And you've got here the fire alarm control panel, here the One Controller, the optional screen, and emergency stop. And if I was to press the button, the fire alarm shaking and the emergency stop, which is shaking, is saying, oh, we've got a problem, we need to shut down, we need to shut down. So the One Controller then sends a shutdown signal that goes to the leading inverter or all the inverters if they are in different locations. And the one beauty of this is you can have each inverter connected to its own Ethernet port. So you can have them as follower leader, or they can be each individual port connected to a switch. Okay, but we'll explain that later on. So they get the shutdown signal, and what will happen is that basically the modules will then start to reduce in production as they are, and everything stays off. This is what you can have on the actual One Controller connected to it. So it's a great tool. It's a multi-tool, and what you have is the One Controller here. You've got the SolarEdge Go app here, okay, which is on your phone. Your one controller then has an additional monitoring port, so you can have the screen for the Firefighter feature, connects to the internet router, connects to the cloud, connects to your monitoring platform. And what you can connect into the actual one controller is this. So your environmental sensors can be connected, and we will go through these later on. So your environmental sensors can be connected, and these are RS485s. They're not analog sensors anymore. These are RS485. Now you can have the questions that's come in, which is really good timing. You can have up to 20 sensors connected to your one controller, but bearing in mind you can only see 10 of them on the monitoring platform. Now, why would you need to have 20? Well, you don't need to have 20, because you can get a pyranometer, and that pyranometer, well, that can have many functions on it. It can do the irradiance, it can do the ambient temperature, you can do the module temperature, wind temperature, it's wind velocity rather. It has all the information you need, and that's only one sensor. So yes, don't be concerned because of the fact of, well, we only support 10 sensors, but that's more than enough than you would need. Then we've got the I/O ports, or on-off ports. These can be used to control 4 different things, including one of them which we're working on now is to turn on and off the generator. So when you have an emergency, you have a power cut, your generator comes in. Obviously, you can't have your PV and your battery, your CSS OD, running at the same time, because we're having two forces pushing against each other. It's a bit like WWE back in the day, or WWF, where you had the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. And if you know your wrestling history, you'll know the 2 wrestlers I'm talking about. So they're both pushing together, and one of them is going to lose. Okay. So having the on-off port, what that does is allows the signal from the generator to the one controller, and for the one controller then to say, okay, I will turn off the PV and I will turn off the CSS OD. Next, you've got your commercial EV chargers. So these can be monitored by the one controller, and you have a selection of energy meters. So currently we support the SolarEdge energy meter, the K2. We also support the Innopro P380, I believe it is. We support that one. We're working on that one. We're just finishing that off, but we will support that one. The beauty of the one controller is that it also provides G100 for any meter that's attached to it. So the way the system works is it will provide that G100 for the entire system, including the meter. So you can have an Innopro meter which has G100 features supported by a one controller, which wouldn't if you just connected that to a normal inverter. All of these will be available on the ENA register for the, we will get them added, all the meters, to the ENA type test register, don't worry. So there'll be a complete list of everything. And then you've got your commercial inverters, the Synergy 4 box, and then the normal inverters as well, any inverter from 20 kilowatts and upwards. And then we have the CSS OD, which is a commercial storage system. And the last one is the fire alarm panel, which we're calling the Firefighter feature. Well, I'm pioneering that title, and that's what I'm calling it, the Firefighter feature. It's not a gateway, it's a feature now. This is what it looks like. Spinning round, you can see you've got USB ports, you've got Wi-Fi ports, you've got a green area, which is where the plug is, and I'll show you the connections for these later on. That's where you would connect into the green plug. And these are the connections. So the top one we're looking at here is for the Firefighter gateway, or the Firefighter feature. You need a 24-volt transformer with a 1 amp supply. And as you can see on here, I've colored it in now because our manual isn't very good. It doesn't actually say color coding. So the manual was slightly wrong because it has the plus on the left. So plus is on the right, that's right, basically. So plus on the right, And how it is that you connect the transformer. When you get the transformers, they come with multi adapters, so you have all different sizes to adapt to back into a product like a HDMI screen or something like that. And then you pull off the adapter, and then you put on one that has the connections, so physical terminal connections. So out of that transformer, you take the negative to number 21, you take the positive to number 19, and then from that same terminal where you have 19, you then connect your emergency stop or your fire alarm auxiliary contact in line. So where the contact switch is here, this is where you would connect your emergency stop or your fire alarm, or rather, you can do both, your fire alarm auxiliary. One point to note is that you can change this to normally open to normally close. So you have to physically set whether you have normally open or normally closed. You must check that before when you're doing the commissioning. But this is the physical wiring. So 21 is negative, 19 is plus, and number 9 is the control wire or return. Okay. Then looking at the meter underneath, you've got some positions. So this is RS4851 that we would call it, and this is 1, 3, and 5. Okay, and then you've got RS4852, which is 6, 7, and 8, and you'll see the positions of those on the next screen. Now, what is most important, and this is really important, is when we look at this screen here, when this spins around, these are the pins we're looking at connecting. So we're looking at connecting that. So when you're looking at this, this is actually as it's being pushed onto the one controller, just like this, because these are press connections. You press into them, okay? So this is the back of where you connect. It's not the plug, so you haven't got to rotate it 180 degrees. This is how, imagine if you put the plug onto the device, which is what you would do. You'd push the plug onto the actual one controller, and then these are the connections you would connect into. So straight into number 9. So this here would be a screw, that would be a screw, and this back here is the one controller. So you'll physically push the plug onto the one controller, and these are the terminals that you would connect to. You can see on here we've got the other ones. We've got 6, 7, and 8, and then you've got 1, 3, and 5. So you've got 2 ports on here. Why do you need 2 ports? Well, 1 port is needed for the meter, and you can have either RS4851 or RS4852, whatever you wish. You can have either. The sensors, they are, as I said, RS485, and they also require a 24-volt DC supply, so separate to the Firefighter feature. They are, as you can see, they are wired in series, so they will be able to connect to each other on the roof, and then you have one cable coming back from the roof down to here. So all the cables basically are the same. There's no difference in the connections which you normally have from here. So on the CCG, you used to have all the different cables from the sensors here that would be wired back to the CCG, but you don't need to now. All you need to do is wire them to this. You've got a plus, you've got a minus, you've got a ground, 24-volt plus and minus, and you just connect the sensor. So on the roof, you connect your sensor to this connection here, this connection then goes to the next one, and so on. And again, you can have up to 10 of these that can be connected or can be seen on the monitoring portal, but you can have up to 20. But you don't need that many, because you'll have a pyranometer that will give you pretty much all the information in one sensor. So don't be alarmed about, oh, I've only got 10 sensors. If I go north, east, south, and west, well, I need 3 irradiance, I need 3 ambient temperatures, that's 6, and then 3 module temperatures, 6. Then I need a ambient temperature, that's like 7 sensors. You don't need 7 sensors. You can just get one sensor that will do all that. So commissioning it, these screens are a little bit quick, but we've got pictures of them below, so don't worry about it. So you can configure everything. If not now, you will be able to by the end of the month on the SolarEdge Go app. SolarEdge setup has now been removed. That's gone completely. Yeah, that's gone completely now, and you can only use the SolarEdge Go. So for the Firefighter feature, it's basically showing you all the devices on here, and this is where you would do your input for normally open, normally closed. You can see on here, hopefully it will stop, go around again. You can see this, the emergency is detected, you restore the system, and there we go, and you can see it all on your app. So next slide, or next picture. Yeah, that's where you can have it, set it to normally open, normally close, and it is very, very self-explanatory. This bit here is you've got safety C. It's not necessarily 3 volts, it's 1 volt per one. This is just a demonstration picture. And then you've got manual call point. You can say exactly what you want it to do and what you want it to do, fire alarm. So you can actually select them on there. In event of a shutdown, you will see that the devices are off. They've got a warning on here, and then you can restore it manually yourself. Everything will be seen, including the alerts on the monitoring platform as normal, and also in SolarEdge Go in the Manage tab. So, a couple of questions. What DC transformer should I order? You need a 24 volt transformer with a 1 amp. Yes, got that right. Well done, me. What HDMI screen should you use? Now, I've ordered one from Amazon, and that's worked perfectly well. In fact, it worked so well, I've ordered 3 of them, and on each occasion, all of them have worked, and that cost me no more than £49. And because I used my partner's Prime account, didn't cost me anything in postage and packaging either. But any screen will work with HDMI. Does the inverter and one controller need to be on the same router? Now, this is really important. You can have the inverters in a different place in the building. They must be connected to the same network as the one controller. So the one controller can be in a different place in the building, but on the same network, the same local network as what the PV inverters are. So the PV inverters, the one controller, the CSS OD connects to the one controller. All these must be on the same network. You could use, when I say you could use a LTE router and connect all the inverters and the one controller onto the same router. You can't have 2 different routers, okay? Must be the same LTE router. So you can use modems, but they must be the same modem, and it must be connected to all the devices. So how far can a one controller be from the fire alarm panel? Currently we state 20 meters, but you can use an auxiliary interface from the fire alarm panel. So the fire alarm panel is very clever now. They can use different means of extending the range, and you can use that. So what's the best way to ensure the installation goes as planned? This is a really great question. And the answer is the one controller needs to have the correct firmware to ensure that is the case. Open a case as soon as possible. So when you get your one controller, you purchase your one controller, the best thing to do is to unpack it. Look at the labels on the side. You'll see there's an IP address, a MAC address, and open a case, put those numbers in the case and say you want to have this device uploaded. And what we do, we add those bits of information onto our internal tools. And as soon as your device connects online, we will find it and we will update the firmware. It doesn't take long, it takes a very short time. Now, the newer products that you're getting, the newer one controllers, in fact, the one controllers you should get probably by the end of March, that will have the latest firmware and will update automatically. Okay, so open a case, put the information on there, plug the controller into the internet, and we will update it automatically. Then you'll be able to use SolarEdge Go to configure it. So unless you've updated the product or it has the latest firmware, you're not going to be able to use the SolarEdge Go. So that's one of the issues. Why is that a biggie? Well, it's a biggie if you've got to set a static IP address. So what you can do is you can configure this in your office or in a hotel room or wherever you are the night before, the day before, long as you've got it set up and it's downloaded the firmware, you can configure to the IP address that the IT department give you. So you put on there, same as you would an inverter, you go onto the inverter, you go into the one controller, you select static IP address rather than dynamic, and then you enter the IP address that they want you to use. You put the gateway, the DNS, and the mask. And once you've done that and you press save, it will then disconnect from the internet. Okay, and as soon as you go to the place of work, you plug that in there, it's already got the static IP address and everything like that, and it will connect. Okay, so question, can the one controller control the inverters by Ethernet connection instead of using the RS485? Absolutely it can, yes. So what you can do is you can have, say you've got 8 inverters. Normally you would have a leader and you would have 7 followers. And that leader would have an Ethernet port, and that would then connect to a router. The one controller would be in a different place or could be next to it. That also needs to connect to a Ethernet port connected to the same router. What you can do is you can have every inverter now, as well as by follow by leader, but you can also have every inverter to have its own Ethernet port, and they can be different places in the estate, let's say. So let's say you have a large school or a large university or something like that. You can have all the inverters in different places connected as their own leader with their own Ethernet port connected to the same router. Now they must be the same router or the same local network as the one controller. If you can do that, then yes, they can be connected by Ethernet. They can't be connected like that if they have a different router. So if building 1 has its own router and has a different connection to the outside world than what the one controller is, you can't do that. Okay. Next question, can I use the Firefighter gateway in the CCG as well? The answer is, I know you're screaming it, the answer is, press that button, no. These will need to be removed from the inverter daisy chain, and the one controller now does all these functions these 2 products used to. So if you have an inverter that has a setup inverter, that means it doesn't have a screen and connects using the SolarEdge Go now, this will work perfectly fine. Okay. If you have a Firefighter gateway and a CCG and you have inverters with LCD screens and you have an issue with one of the CCGs or Firefighter gateway, you will receive a Firefighter gateway and a CCG. If you have inverters that have a screen, no screen, they work only with the one controller, the setup feature in the one controller, and your Firefighter gateway and your CCG, they fail under warranty, you'll be sent a one controller. The one controller does have or will be allowed to work with a conversion tool for analog sensors. So you can buy a analog conversion tool from analog to RS485. So it will still work, still be supported. Okay. Can I use the one controller in a remote location and connect it to a meter? Yes, if it's connected to the same router as the inverter. Okay. So let's have a look at the CSS OD, the 197. So this is the big brother to the 102.4. We've got one of these in the office, and you would hardly know it was on. It's incredibly quiet. To be honest, we walk into the storeroom, the warehouse we've got in Cambridge, and we hear the inverter fans going more than this. So this is a very quiet product. So there's a few why storage, why the CSS OD, and things like that. Let's have a look at them. So I'm sure you'll know that prices are getting more expensive. It only takes a wobble in the world somewhere along the world, doesn't it, for prices to increase? And yes, they will. Any excuse to put the price up. I was shocked, actually. I was in Neath yesterday, and I was shocked at the price of Tesco's petrol. £1.41 they put it up to pretty much overnight. So absolutely shocked that even Tesco's are doing it. So yeah, price of electricity and fuel and oil and everything is going up, and we are going to be faced with some higher bills. So why would you want to buy something when you've already got it there and your excess energy, you just need to store it? So return on investment is becoming shorter now. The higher the electricity bill prices go, the more or the lower the return on investment is, so that the quicker you will get your money's worth back. And you'll see on the next couple of slides here that we expect battery storage to increase rapidly by the year 2030. We all know that 2030 is meant to be the 70% cutoff for net zero, and 2050 is 100% for net zero. So yeah, batteries are flying off the shelves now, and they are becoming more and more useful. So why would you, or what would you look for in a battery? So a dependable vendor. And I was saying this to someone yesterday. I said, you're using products that have been in and out the market for 2 or 3 years. I said, you know, SolarEdge has been in the market since 2010. We stayed in the UK with actual people in the ground. We've still got one of our first employees from 2010 still working for us, Nadav, and you know, we haven't left the country. We've never left. Even when the feed-in tariff dropped, we didn't pull out. Lots of other manufacturers disappeared, then came back, then disappeared again. And there's also some other manufacturers that are having some problems, and they are disappearing. One of them's already said they're going, and there'll be others that will be following. So what's important is, if you get a warranty for 10 years, do you actually think that that product is going to last for 10 years? What's your comfort? Your comfort zone is the fact that the company will be there in 10 years plus. And if the company isn't there in 10 years time, the warranty means absolutely nothing. So people can promise 15-year warranty. That's what I heard someone say to me yesterday. We're being promised a 15-year warranty, and I asked them, do you see that company being here in 15 years time? And they went, no, we don't see that. So okay, let's have a dependable vendor that's going to be here and still have people that can come out and help. Then you've got the software. Have you got the latest firmware? Well, I'm sure you all know I've banged the drum for cybersecurity many a time, that with cybersecurity, you've got to keep updating. And if you have a legacy product that was installed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that does not have the same cybersecurity as the products do today, unless you're with SolarEdge, because SolarEdge will guarantee that products installed in 2010, when they were first installed in the UK, had the same cybersecurity as what the new products do. Okay, it's all to do with the cloud, where the servers are, and what tools we put in place. So we are very, very careful with the cybersecurity needs for our customers and what we deliver. Installability, well, you turns up on a lorry, you unload it, you then take the packaging off, you then put it on its plinth, and you connect the single phase to the heating and ventilation, you connect the 3-phase to the inverter or PCS on the side, and that's it. You don't have to pack the batteries, you don't have to unpack them, you don't have to do connections or anything inside other than the AC connections. And it's got lots of built-in safety mechanisms as well, including the cybersecurity. So it's been installed pretty much all over Europe, and you'll see the UK is last but not least on here. So it's everywhere. Everywhere this product is being installed. And this is brilliant. It is brilliant, but it's also called brilliant. But this is brilliant. It's in the Netherlands here. Basically they were using 70%, they were being self-efficient for 70%, and then they decided, well, let's see what happens if we go into the designer and we add a CSS OD. They added a CSS OD into the designer, and it worked out that they would have 90% efficiency, and then that was translated into real-term effects. So basically they're paying for 1% of their energy needs at the moment. So they've got 3 CSS ODs 102s. They've got 400 kilowatts or 466 kilowatts of PV and 306 kilowatts of battery storage. And they basically have very nearly broken even. So they're doing very, very well. Then we've got the one in, where's this one here? Germany, I think this one is. Yes, Germany. Yep, I was looking for the country. Same thing. Added the CSS OD to his existing PV site, and it's just been amazing for them. They're saving so much money. The return on investment is incredibly quick. Okay, just realized I'm not looking at the questions here, so I've gone back to the questions. Okay, there's a question here I'll answer in a minute. So this is the CSS OD itself. Let's have a look at it a little bit closer up. Press the button. So it comes as it does. You can have 2 inverters, so you can have 2 50 kilowatt inverters or PCSs, or you can have one. Each of them are separate inverters, so it's not like a 100 amp, 100 kilowatt inverter. It's 250, so it'd be 2 50 kilowatt inverters for your G99 application. You can have up to 4 megawatt hours of storage and 1 megawatt hour power per deployment. Okay. 10-year warranty on there, 70% or 7,000 cycles for 10 years. Seamless setup and installation. Comprehensive, very good safety. And I'll tell you a story about the safety as soon as we get onto it. Okay. This is what it looks like. These are the clusters. You've got a cluster on the left here, cluster on the right. If this one was to stop working for whatever reason, this one would carry on, and vice versa. If this one stopped, this would carry on. So it is independent engineering, so it will carry on should there be an issue. This is the size of it here. So basically it's 1.3 meters long by 1.2 meters, 2.5 ton to lift off. We've got hooks on the top here. So these bits here are hooks, so you can have a crane to lift it as well. Very easy to install. These are the actual footprints. So this is the new one, is the green one, and this was the old one, the blue one, 102. And you're actually getting, I think on there, it's 92%. Yeah, it says at the bottom, 92% increase in storage with only 52% increase in the cabinet. So very good package, absolutely. And this is what you can have. So there's 2 solutions here. You can have on these ones here have got 1 inverter, as you can see, on each battery cabinet, and that gives you 4 megawatt hours with 1 megawatt hour of output. Or you can have 2 megawatt hours of energy storage and 1 megawatt of output, because you've got 100 kilowatts on each one as opposed to 50. So the heating and ventilation, very quiet, as I said. Its job is to keep it cool, and it will have a drain hose at the bottom. Should it collect any moisture, that then goes into a bucket or into a drain, whatever you wish. You can, it does integrate because it's connected to the ONE controller, so it integrates with the PV system and shows up on your monitoring, all your alerts or anything like that that you would normally expect with any product, any SolarEdge product will appear into your monitoring system. So people say, what's the difference between air cooling and liquid cooling? Well, I'm sure anybody that's got a car with a radiator knows that that can have some leaks. It does corrode. It does require some maintenance, and the fans can get blocked, and there's a bit of a problem with it. So we opted for air cooling. So the maintenance is incredibly easy for this. Very easy monthly maintenance. Just check that the fans are clean, things like that. Very simple to design, very simple to work, and very reliable. You can design it on the designer. If you have a PV site, I think you might know by now, but if you don't, when you go to design, you get the option to create site. The very last tab is to, I can't remember the actual words, but it says bring back from the monitoring. So you can bring the monitoring site back to here, and you can then add the CSS OD. You can control it by the Go app, you can install it by the Go app, and you can see it on SolarEdge ONE CNI, and you can see it on the SolarEdge Go app. Again, on the monitoring, you can do the designing and monitoring, and you can see everything on here. And you can see it on the Go app, which we just said, and you can see it on here for energy optimization. Yes, we spoke about this one here. This is a one controller we spoke about. One controller connects, basically the CSS OD connects to it, the PV connects to the same router as the one controller. Everything is seen by the monitoring platform, and it's a great tool. The process is very simple. You install it, commission it, then you can see, just as you would with an inverter. Now, these are the things we've got. So maximum self-consumption, peaks, shaving, tariff optimization is fixed, but we are looking at dynamic, and export limitation as such, G100 is included. This is what maximum self-consumption looks like. I guess I don't need to tell you this, but any excess energy goes into it. You can see that in the monitoring platform. The peak shaving, basically we keep the battery on standby until you reach a peak. Now you can set the peak limits yourself. Then the battery will discharge at those peak limits. Yeah, that's the same thing. And time of use, just set a time, it charges and then discharges as and when you need it. So basically it takes into account everything that's going on in 24 hours and can give you a solution for that. Export and import, yeah, we know how to do that. Zero export, again, it can do that. It can stop the inverters from exporting by charging straight into the CSS OD. So these are the important ones. I know we've got a couple of minutes left. These are the safety. Now, I was at the National Health Service Fire Officers Convention yesterday. Had the great pleasure of presenting to them. So all the fire officers from Wales, and I showed them as an extra. I like to give people a bit of extra. We talked about safety because they were concerned about safety for PV, and they wanted to see the Firefighter feature and things like that. And they were saying, you know, we've got pretty much all our hospitals and roofs have got SolarEdge on, and we're actually doing a process of changing those that haven't to SolarEdge. So that's going to be a repowering exercise. And I said, well, what about batteries? Oh, we're looking at batteries. I said, well, have a look at the CSS OD. Tell me what you think about the safety. And they looked at it and said it was amazing. And I showed them this slide, and they almost fell off their chairs because they said, wow, you've got Novec 1230. I said, well, I have no idea what that is. Is that any good? And they said, yes, this is the best safety mechanism you could have. They said it's absolutely brilliant. So bit of endorsement there by the National Health Service fire officers. I mean, I try to keep abreast of everything, but I don't know everything. I do my best. But now I know that this is the best fire suppression chemical going, and it's in our product, so that's even better. So you've got all the other safety features here. This is what it looks like. We've even got a hose here, so should there be an issue, number 11, firefighting valve, they can just come along, connect a hose to it and flood the system, and that's it. Doesn't leak water, it's completely watertight as such, and it will just do its own thing and put itself out. But we do have aerosol fire extinguishers 1 and 2 down here, and we have temperature sensors, pressure relief valve, everything you could think of to do with safety, we've got it in there. The inverter is standard inverter, as you would expect, and no PV connected to it, just purely AC coupled, and it will do everything you expect an inverter to do. And they are on the E&I type test register as well. Cybersecurity, we've spoken about this, but it's a really big one. The one controller does do cybersecurity for all your devices. So if you have an old site, let's say it's not a SolarEdge site, you can repower that site and then put one controller on, and a peace of mind that everything will be up to the latest cybersecurity limitations. So summary, high density, peace of mind, seamless installation, maximum savings, comprehensive safety, and cyber defense. Okay. Now, got over 2 minutes. Apologies for that. But next month's webinar will be the SolarEdge ONE EV charger. Yes, that will be here for sale next month. Okay. So come the end of March, April, you'll be able to buy that. I will then show you a commissioning flow, an unboxing and commissioning video, and we'll just recap on the multi-range concept inverters because they're actually here and on sale. They're available for you to buy. So you can buy the multi-range. You'll be able to buy the ONE EV charger next month. I'm going to install it on Monday in my house. I will then take some videos of what I've done, how to install it, how easy it is, and everything like that, and unboxing, and you will have that in April. Okay, so April you'll be able to buy it. April you will see all the stuff about it, and that's it. Now I've got a question here, one more question here. Yes, so question is, do you have an update availability on new variable capacity one? Yes, they're here. So I spoke to the distributors and I said, are you selling our new products? Are you selling the best products in the world ever? And they said, we are. We are selling the best product in the world ever for people that ask for sizes we don't have. So they already have current stock. So if you phone up with the 3.68 home hub, you'll get a 3.68. If they haven't got a 3.68, you'll get the multi-range inverter, okay, that you can make it at 3.68. Is there any update on the DC EV charger, please? Yes, we're waiting for the world to catch up with us, in particular regulations and cars, and we believe that it's on hold now. So it's the project's on hold. We believe maybe 27, 28, the world will have caught up with us and we can release the product. So until then, there's only a couple of cars that will actually be able to use it, and that's not our fault, that's the cars themselves. Okay, so thank you very much for being patient and waiting for me. I've made plans that we won't ever have this issue, so I've had my actual email put on the webinar rather than the one we normally use, which is a generic one, because nobody seems to know who owns the email, and when you try and log on, it asks for the code. And of course, if you've ever done that yourself and you've forgotten what email you've sent the code to or wherever it is, it's difficult to find. So we did find a way around it and we did it. So thank you very much for staying. I will send you a copy of last month's presentation and this one, and that's it. So excellent. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.